You know, it's amazing when you stop and think about it for a second. All the biological information that's out there now,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking decoding genomes, like it's nothing tracking diseases on a global scale.
It's incredible.
It seems like every day there's a new breakthrough, and it's all thanks to those hidden stories in the DNA sequences, right?
It really is. And you know what's even more exciting is the real challenge, the real opportunity.
Mm.
It lies in figuring out what it all means.
Yeah.
We're generating tons of data, but the key is to pull out those valuable insights. That's where things get really interesting.
That's so true. And that brings us to what we're diving into today, a recent
Mhm.
report on the next generation sequencing data analysis market.
In GS.
Exactly, NGS. And the big takeaway here is the growth we're seeing. It's not just steady, it's a full-on surge. The report predicts a global market to hit USD 134.76 million in 2025.
Yeah. And get this, that's just the tip of the iceberg. By 2033, we're looking at a projected value of USD 625.59 million.
Wow.
It's huge. A compound annual growth rate of 23.60%. That's a CAGR of 23.60%. This field is on fire.
It really is. So the question becomes, what's fueling this massive expansion?
Well, the report points to one major driver: personalized medicine.
It makes sense when you think about it.
It does.
If you want treatments that are tailored to an individual's genetic makeup, well, you absolutely need to be able to analyze massive amounts of NGS data.
Exactly. Personalized medicine is all about understanding each person at a molecular level.
Right.
And NGS data analysis is the key. It gives us that super detailed picture, allowing for treatments that are not only more targeted, but potentially way more effective.
I see. So it's like having a giant puzzle, and NGS data analysis helps us put all the pieces together.
That's a great analogy, and this report goes deep. It looks at the market size, the growth rates, the different segments, the regional variations, the key players, the drivers, the restraints, the trends. It's really comprehensive.
So it's like a full blueprint of the NGS data analysis landscape.
Exactly. And to be clear, this isn't just speculation. They've used 2024 as their baseline. They've looked at historical data from 2021, 2025 as their estimated year, and then they've made projections all the way to 2033. It's built on a solid foundation.
That's good to know. So let's start with that global market size, USD 134.76 million in 2025, and that strong CAGR of 23.60%. But let's break down that key driver, personalized medicine. Why is it such a game changer in this market?
Well, the connection's pretty straightforward. The more we move towards personalized medicine, the more we need powerful tools to analyze DNA. You sequence someone's genome and you get this massive amount of raw data.
Okay.
Think of it like a huge unorganized library. NGS data analysis is the cataloging system. It helps us pinpoint those specific variations in the genes that could be relevant to their health.
So as personalized medicine gains traction, whether it's for treating cancer, understanding rare diseases, or even predicting how someone will respond to a drug, the demand for NGS data analysis will just keep going up.
Exactly, and that's what we're seeing reflected in these projections.
Now let's zoom in on the regional differences because the report highlights some interesting variations. North America seems to be in the lead right now with over 40% of the global market share. That translates to USD 456.86 million in 2025 and a CAGR of 21.8% between 2025 and 2033. And within North America, the U.S. is the dominant player, projected at USD 360.46 million in 2025, with a CAGR of 21.6%. Canada and Mexico are also significant players with USD 54.82 million and USD 41.57 million, respectively, both with CAGRs above 22%. What's making North America such a powerhouse in this market?
Well, it really comes down to a few key factors. First, North America has a really well-developed and advanced healthcare system, which makes it easier to adopt new technologies like NGS. Second, there's a strong push for personalized medicine with lots of investments in genomic research. And third, the major NGS companies and a lot of the big biotech companies are based in North America. So you've got this perfect storm of advanced infrastructure, tons of research, and a really strong industry presence.
So it's like the ideal breeding ground for NGS data analysis.
Pretty much, and that's why we're seeing such strong numbers there.
Now, across the Atlantic, we have Europe holding over 30% of the global market with a projected value of USD 358.08 million in 2025 and a CAGR of 22.5%. Europe seems a bit more diverse, though. So the report breaks it down by individual countries. The UK is at USD 60.16 million with a 23.3% TZGR. Germany is the leader at USD 70.90 million with a 22.7% CGR. And then you have France, Italy, Russia, Spain, all in the USD 29 to 55 million range with KGRs around 21, 22%. Even the smaller markets like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg are showing solid growth, what's fueling this strong performance in Europe?
Well, one thing that stands out is the significant role of government funding in Europe. Many European countries are investing heavily in genomics research, and they're really pushing for the adoption of precision medicine. Germany, for example, has a particularly strong biotech industry, which naturally leads to the development and use of these NGS data analysis tools. So you're seeing a combination of government support, a strong industry, and a real commitment to advancing healthcare.
So slightly different approach, but still very effective. Now let's shift our focus to the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. Currently, they hold around 23% of the market with USD 296.34 million in 2025. But their projected CAGR is a whopping 26.7%. That's significantly higher than the other major regions.
Yeah, APAC is definitely the one to watch.
Seems like, so what's driving this rapid growth in APAC?
It's a combination of factors happening all at the same time. You've got a massive increase in healthcare spending across the region. More and more people are becoming aware of the benefits of genetic testing, and the demand for personalized medicine is skyrocketing. On top of that, there's a huge expansion in genomics research, and many governments in APAC are actively supporting the adoption of advanced healthcare technologies like NGS. So it's this perfect blend of increasing investment, growing awareness, and strong government support.
And we can't forget about the sheer size of the population in APAC. That's a major factor, too.
Absolutely. The larger the population, the greater the need for these kinds of diagnostic and treatment solutions, especially with the rising prevalence of certain diseases in the region.
It sounds like APAC is really poised to become a major player in the NGS data analysis market.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so we've covered North America, Europe, and APAC. Let's briefly touch on some of the other regions. South America has just over 5% of the market projected at USD 46.92 million in 2025, with a CAGR of 24.4%. Brazil and Argentina are the key markets there. What's the outlook for South America?
Well, even though their current market share is relatively small, that TGR of 24.4% tells us that they're on a solid growth trajectory. We're seeing healthcare infrastructure improving all across South America, and there's a growing focus on advanced diagnostics. NGS is being adopted more and more in both disease research and personalized medicine, and a lot of this is being supported by government initiatives and international collaborations.
So as healthcare systems continue to develop in South America, we can expect to see further growth in the NGS data analysis market there.
Precisely.
Moving on to the Middle East, they have about a 2% market share with a projected USD 49.39 million in 2025 and a CGR of 25.1%. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are the key markets there. What's driving growth in this region?
Well, one key factor is the significant investment that many Middle Eastern countries are making in healthcare. They're building new hospitals, upgrading their facilities, and investing in the latest technologies. There's a big demand for advanced diagnostic tools and a growing interest in precision medicine. A lot of governments in the region are actively supporting these efforts to modernize their healthcare systems, and that includes adopting technologies like NGS.
So it's a combination of investment, modernization, and a growing awareness of the importance of genetics in healthcare?
Exactly.
And finally, Africa currently has about a 1% global market share with a projected USD 27.16 million in 2025 and a CAGR of 23.9%. South Africa and Nigeria are mentioned as key countries. What's the future looking like for NGS data analysis in Africa?
Well, even though Africa currently has the smallest market share, the CAGR of 23.9%, it's just that there's a lot of untapped potential there. Healthcare infrastructure is improving. There's a growing awareness of the role genetics plays in various diseases, and the prevalence of both infectious and inherited genetic disorders is creating a real need for advanced diagnostics. International partnerships and support from global health organizations are also playing a crucial role in building up research capacity and making NGS technologies more accessible.
It's great to see that progress happening, and hopefully that growth will continue.
I think it will.
Okay, so we've looked at the global overview, the regional specifics. Now let's dive into how the market is segmented, starting with sequencing type. Short-read sequencing is expected to remain the dominant technology, which makes sense. It's widely used in clinical diagnostics. Whole genome sequencing, gene expression studies, the report highlights its speed, its well-established nature, its accuracy, especially for applications like cancer genomics and personalized medicine. It really seems like the go-to technology for now.
It is. It's been around longer, it's cost-effective, and it provides a lot of detailed information for many of the applications that are commonly used today. And because it's been around for a while, there's a well-developed infrastructure and a wide range of analytical tools available.
So it's like the reliable workhorse of the field.
Yeah, a good way to put it.
But the report also points out that long-read sequencing is the fastest growing segment because it's better at detecting structural variations, these larger changes in the DNA sequence, and it can handle more complex genomic regions. This makes it particularly valuable for rare disease research and analyzing complex genomes, and the fact that the costs are coming down and the technology is rapidly improving is making it more accessible. So while short read is still the leader, long read seems poised for some serious growth.
Absolutely. Long-read sequencing gives us a more complete picture of the genome in certain situations, which is really important for understanding those really complex genetic architectures and finding those variations that short-read sequencing might miss. And as the technology keeps getting better and cheaper, we're going to see it used more and more.
It sounds like these two sequencing types will likely complement each other moving forward.
I think so. Each has its strengths, and they can work together to give us a more comprehensive understanding of the genome.
Now let's talk about product type services currently hold the largest market share, which makes sense because many research labs, hospitals, and pharmaceutical companies don't necessarily have the in-house expertise or the computing power to handle all this complex analysis. Outsourcing to specialist providers can be more cost-effective, and it ensures high-quality results.
Exactly. And it reflects the fact that bioinformatics is a highly specialized field. Not everyone has the resources to build a team of experts in-house.
Right. It's about accessing that expertise without having to make a huge upfront investment.
Exactly. And service providers can offer those cutting-edge analytical pipelines that many organizations just don't have access to on their own.
However, the report notes that NGS commercial software is a rapidly growing segment as the amount of NGS data keeps increasing. There's a real need for user-friendly and scalable software solutions to manage, analyze, and visualize all this complex information. The rise of cloud-based platforms and AI integration is making these software tools much faster and more accurate.
It's true. And I think we'll see a gradual shift as software becomes more powerful and easier to use. It might become more feasible for larger organizations to start bringing some of those data analysis capabilities in-house.
So it's kind of a balancing act right now between outsourcing and developing in-house capabilities.
It is for now, but as the technology evolves, that balance might shift.
Now let's look at the market from a workflow perspective. Secondary analysis, which involves aligning the raw sequencing data, doing quality control checks, and identifying genetic variations, what's called variant calling, currently holds the largest share. Which makes sense because these are the essential first steps before you can even start interpreting the data biologically.
Absolutely. Secondary analysis is like laying the foundation. It transforms that raw, unprocessed data into a format that can be understood and interpreted, and that's crucial for both research and clinical applications.
But tertiary analysis, which focuses on the deeper biological interpretation of those genetic variations, is a rapidly growing segment. And that makes sense given the increasing focus on clinical applications. The report also highlights the growing role of AI and machine learning in making these tertiary analysis tools more sophisticated and user-friendly. So while secondary analysis lays the groundwork, tertiary analysis is where the real clinical value is unlocked.
Exactly, as we use NGS more and more in real-world clinical settings, being able to interpret all that genetic information and translate it into actionable insights becomes even more important. And that's what tertiary analysis is all about.
It's like taking the raw data and turning it into something meaningful for patient care.
Precisely.
Finally, the report looks at sourcing type, how organizations are accessing NGS data analysis. Outsourced analysis currently holds the largest market share for many of the same reasons that services are the dominant product type. It can be more cost-effective, you get access to the latest technologies without a big upfront investment, turnaround times are often faster, and you can get customized solutions. So it seems like many organizations are still finding it more efficient to outsource this complex data analysis to specialists.
It makes sense, especially for organizations that don't have a constant need for NGS data analysis. It's a way to access those specialized skills and technology without having to build it all in-house.
But in-house analysis is also growing large hospitals. Pharma companies and big research institutions are investing more and more in building their own bioinformatics teams. They want more control over their data, faster access to results, and potentially lower costs in the long run as the technology becomes more user-friendly and software solutions become more affordable. So it seems like there's a trend towards larger players bringing that expertise in-house.
It's a sign of the market maturing. As NGS becomes more integrated into everyday research and clinical practice, having those in-house bioinformatics capabilities becomes more attractive, especially for larger organizations.
It's about having more control over the entire process.
Exactly, and being able to tailor those analysis pipelines to their specific needs.
So we've covered the global overview, the regional variations, the different segments. Now let's talk about the overall market dynamics. The report identifies three main drivers: the growing demand for personalized medicine, the increasing prevalence of cancer, which is driving the adoption of NGS technology, and the continuous technological advancements in sequencing platforms themselves.
And those three drivers are all interconnected. The desire for more effective and targeted treatments, especially for cancer, is pushing the adoption of NGS. And as sequencing technology keeps getting better, faster, cheaper, more accurate, it becomes even easier to generate the huge amounts of data needed for personalized medicine.
It's a positive feedback loop.
It is.
But of course, there are also restraints. The report mentions the high cost of NGS data analysis tools and services and the shortage of skilled bioinformatics professionals. Those are pretty significant hurdles.
They are. The cost can be a real barrier for smaller research groups and healthcare providers, especially in developing countries. And the lack of skilled bioinformaticians is a problem worldwide.
Yeah.
We simply don't have enough people to analyze all this data.
So addressing those challenges is going to be crucial for the future growth of this market.
Absolutely. We need to keep innovating to bring those costs down, and we need to invest in training and education to develop a larger workforce of skilled bioinformaticians.
And looking ahead, the report highlights two key trends: the increasing use of AI and machine learning in interpreting NGS data, and the growing adoption of automation in different parts of the NGS workflow.
Those two trends are really exciting. AI and machine learning have the potential to revolutionize how we analyze this complex genomic data. They can make the process much faster and more accurate, and automation can reduce the need for manual work, increase efficiency, and lower costs.
It sounds like AI and automation could really help overcome some of those restraints we were just talking about.
Absolutely. They have the potential to make NGS data analysis more accessible and affordable, which could really accelerate the growth of this market.
Finally, the report gives us a glimpse into the competitive landscape, noting that the market is pretty competitive with a mix of big global players and smaller regional companies. They mention some of the key companies like Thermo Fisher Scientific, Agilent Technologies, and they highlight a couple of interesting recent developments like Pillar Biosciences expanding their partnership with Illumina to offer more oncology-focused NGS panels, and Digital Insights launching an enhanced version of their software for faster and cheaper secondary analysis for somatic cancers.
It's a dynamic market.
Yeah.
There's a lot of innovation happening, and companies are constantly forming partnerships, developing new products, and trying to push the boundaries of what's possible.
So this deep dive into the NGS data analysis market has really highlighted the incredible growth that's happening, driven by the push for personalized medicine and the advancements in sequencing technology. We're seeing different growth patterns in different regions with some interesting dynamics in terms of sequencing types, product offerings, analysis workflows, and sourcing decisions.
And those projections are pretty impressive. That 23.60% CAGR, leading to a market worth over $6 billion by 2033, it really shows you the massive potential of NGS data analysis to transform healthcare and biological research.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities, and with the rapid progress in AI and the increasing focus on personalized medicine, it makes you wonder about the broader impact of this technology as it becomes even more widespread.
It's definitely something to consider as we move forward. The possibilities are endless. But we also need to think about the ethical and societal implications of all this genetic information that we're now able to access and analyze.
Absolutely. It's a powerful tool, and with great power comes great responsibility.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the NGS data analysis market. It's a fascinating field with so much potential, and we'll be keeping a close eye on its progress. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. It's always great to talk about this exciting area of research.
Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.